Just wondering, for making angled necks, what would be the best and low waist way of doing this? No scarf joint. I've seen a dude, Red Layer Guitars, yep, Jordan is an awesome dude, to make his necks from strips that he cuts and uses index pins when gluing. Thoughts? That is a very good way of doing things. That is what I have done, for instance, with this neck. This is my 7-string. So this is basically strips that I've cut that are like this from maple and walnut, from 2 pieces of wood, and then glued together. I don't have pins in them. I've just made sure that I've kind of rubbed them together so that they don't slip that much. And I had a little bit of excess so I could work it down. I only have a bandsaw and a router and some hand tools. Sadly, no thickness sander. Sorry, my typing is all over the place. Don't worry about your typing. It's completely fine. You should see my typing. Yeah. So if you only have a bandsaw, a router, and some hand tools, great. So cut up your strips, and they can be wider and they don't have to be the exact right dimensions of everything that you're going to do, as long as you fill up the area that you need to fill up, then you're fine. You can use the locating pins, keeps things in check. If you don't have any locating pins, don't worry about it. Actually, make things a little too long on both ends. You can put nails through or even screws all the way through, and that holds everything in place, and then just clamp along. But yeah, like I said, I just rub the pieces of wood together so they don't slip. Like with the glue, I rub them together, and then I just carefully clamped everything down, and got very minimal slippage. Then, of course, cut it a bit more down to size with your bandsaw. Then if you have hand tools, I'm guessing you have a plane of some sort, you can get your flat on your truss rod side, so your fretboard side. Get your angle cut properly or plane flat properly, and get your heel flat. That is a very important dimension as well to get right. And everything else you can just carve along. What about grain direction? So my grain direction is, I abide by the rules that I was taught in school. So when gluing up pieces of wood, I have the grain going that way on that piece of wood, then they're going the opposite direction on here, then on here, yep, they're going that way, then that way, and then finally that way. So I'm alternating. So when the wood starts to move as it ages, the forces that are pushing up against one another, they're literally doing that. They're pushing up against one another and they're kind of canceling each other out. That is what you want. Because if you have all your grain direction going in that way, of course you're then going to start ending up with a sort of twist. In the worst case scenario, if your wood hasn't completely dried. If it's very, very, very dry, then you should run into no issues. But I'm sorry I'm babbling. But yeah, just when gluing up multi-laminates, make sure your grain direction switches directions in between the laminates, and then you should be just fine. Up, down, yes. But when it comes to buying rough lumber for doing multi-laminate strip method neck, what do you look for? Quarter sawn or plain sawn? Honestly, I'm trying to think of if I have almost any wood that is quarter sawn. Very hardly at all. Most of the wood I use is plain sawn, and because it's something that I have readily available. And it hasn't done me wrong so far. basically if you have quarter sawn pieces of necks, or if you have quarter sawn wood and you're doing a multi-laminate, then you don't need to worry about grain direction at all because all the grain is absolutely straight. So you don't need to change the grain direction. Of course, then you don't need to worry about anything at all. If you have the plain sawn stuff, then you need to switch around the grain directions. That's basically what it boils down to. A few days back, I had analysis paralysis because of that. Oh, I get it. Yeah, I get it. But yeah, it really depends. If you want to go for quarter sawn, go for quarter sawn. It will be straight grain and you won't need to worry about it as much. If you have plain sawn, then you can work around the construction methods to help it, basically. This Wenge neck that I have, it is a one-piece neck, which is something I don't do often, and it is plain sawn as well, and it has barely moved in the 3-4 years that I've had it. Then I'll be looking for plain sawn rough wood for the necks. Yeah, I mean, you should be just fine. If you're doing multi-laminate necks in the first place, you should be just fine. If you were doing one-piece necks, then of course, then I would say, look for quarter sawn, because it will just be, a bit more of a sure thing. But multi-laminate, I don't see it making too big of a difference. The construction method already takes care of most of it.